The Galactic Council had ruled the known universe for 12,000 years, their crystalline spires reaching toward distant stars from the capital world of Zephyria Prime. Today, those same spires trembled as emergency signals cascaded through hyperspace networks, each message more urgent than the last. "The humans are moving," whispered Chancellor Vexhai, her six eyes darting between holographic displays that showed fleet movements spanning half the galaxy. The reptilian Thackeray beside her coiled tighter around his perch, scales rippling with anxiety. Admiral Korath of the Hegemony War Fleet studied the tactical readouts with growing dread. 300 years ago, when humanity had first stumbled into galactic civilization with their primitive fusion drives and kinetic weapons, they had seemed laughably primitive. The Council had permitted them membership only after humanity agreed to a crushing debt technological advancement in exchange for complete economic subjugation. Every human world would labor for centuries to pay for the privilege of joining galactic society. It had seemed like such a clever arrangement. "Sir," Lieutenant Yansol's voice cracked as she addressed the Admiral. "The debt, the humans just transferred the final payment. All 847 trillion galactic credits, plus accumulated interest." The war room fell silent except for the hum of quantum processors struggling to comprehend the implications. Humanity had been 3 centuries ahead of schedule. Chancellor Vexhai's claws scraped against the command console. "How is this possible? Our economic projections showed they would need at least 6 more centuries of mining operations, manufacturing quotas, and resource extraction to." "They cheated the system," Admiral Korath interrupted, his mandibles clicking in what his species considered nervous laughter. "We gave them access to quantum computing, nanotechnology, and fusion reactors. We assumed they would use them exactly as prescribed in the technology transfer agreements. Instead, humanity had done what they always did: they had improvised, adapted, and innovated in ways that made the galaxy's oldest civilizations deeply uncomfortable. They had taken quantum computing and created AI systems that could optimize manufacturing processes beyond anything the Council had imagined. They had used nanotechnology not just for construction, but for converting entire asteroid belts into raw materials with impossible efficiency. Most disturbing of all, they had weaponized their own creativity. The first reports had filtered in 6 months ago, human colonies completing their quotas in weeks instead of years. Then came stories of impossible technologies. Ships that could fold spacetime without using traditional hyperspace lanes, manufacturing systems that seemed to violate conservation of energy, and worst of all, humans who spoke of their debt not with resignation, but with anticipation. "They're calling it Graduation Day," reported Intelligence Chief Mordun, her blue skin flickering with bioluminescent stress patterns. "Human communications networks have been flooded with references to something they call going off-leash." Admiral Korath felt his exoskeleton shiver. In all his centuries of military service, he had learned to fear only one thing more than superior firepower: superior unpredictability. Humans had both in abundance. The holographic display updated with new data. Human fleets were emerging from hyperspace at the edge of every major system, not in attack formations, but in perfect defensive spheres. Each fleet transmitted the same message in every known galactic language: debt paid in full. Contract terminated. Have a pleasant day. What are their intentions? Chancellor Vexhai demanded. Unknown, Mordun replied. They're not responding to diplomatic channels, but they're also not firing. They're just waiting. The waiting was perhaps the most terrifying aspect of all. Every other species in the galaxy responded predictably to power dynamics. They either submitted or attacked. Humans did neither. They waited, and while they waited, they prepared. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human ships were deploying strange devices, not weapons, but something else entirely. Sensors couldn't penetrate whatever energy fields surrounded them, but the readings were unlike anything in the Council's databases. Then came the transmission that changed everything. A human face appeared on the main display, unremarkable by galactic standards, with the typical bilateral symmetry and single-photon optical sensors common to dozens of species. But when Sarah Chen, speaking for all of humanity, addressed the Galactic Council, her words carried the weight of inevitability. For 3 centuries, you have treated humanity as your junior partners, your students, your debtors. Today, that relationship ends. We have paid our debt in full, according to the terms of the contract you wrote. But you made a critical error in your calculations. Chancellor Vexhai leaned forward. What error? Sarah's smile was gentle, almost maternal. You assumed that paying our debt was the end of our story. In reality, it was just the beginning. You see, we've been very busy these past 300 years. We've learned everything you taught us, improved upon it, and created things you never imagined. More importantly, we've been making friends. The display shifted to show star charts. Red markers appeared across the galaxy, hundreds of them, then thousands. Every minor species you've ignored, every colony world you've overlooked, every civilization you deemed too primitive for council membership, we've been talking to them. Trading with them. Learning from them. And now, they've asked us to speak for them. The red markers began pulsing in unison. The age of the Galactic Council's hegemony is over. Welcome to the age of the Galactic Commonwealth, where every species has a voice, every world has representation, and every being has worth beyond their economic utility. As the transmission ended, the human fleets across the galaxy began moving in perfect synchronization. Not toward council worlds, but toward the forgotten corners of the galaxy where smaller species had waited centuries for someone to remember they existed. Admiral Korath stared at the tactical display as his worst fears materialized. Humanity hadn't just repaid their debt, they had graduated from students to teachers, from debtors to liberators. The galaxy would never be the same.